Hi folks, HR Funk here. Every once in a while the shooting gods smile on me, and this is one of those times. What I have here with me today is the newest old rifle in my firearms collection. This is technically a U.S. Springfield model 1903A1, and I'll explain why that is as I go through talking about this rifle. It differs somewhat from the original '03 Springfield that was used by our military from 1903 up until the Korean War era. This is a slight variation, although as I'll explain, I think it probably started out as a straight model 1903, and somewhere during its life it became a 1903A1. So let's get on with this close-up look. And I'll start this up-close look by explaining exactly what differentiates a model 1903 Springfield rifle from a model 1903A1. And that differentiation is the stock. If you notice, on my World War II era 1903 rifle, it has a straight stock. There is no pistol grip. And on the model 1903A1, there is a pistol grip, and also the buttstock is somewhat larger and more contoured than the standard model 1903. This variation did come into use during the 1930s, and it was the first official changeover to the standard model 1903 rifle. And the original model 1903A1s are fairly rare. As I said in the opening, I don't believe this originally began life as a 1903A1. And I'll explain why in a little bit when we take a closer look at the stock. But I believe this one was restocked at some point during its life, but when the pistol grip stock is added to the standard model 1903, it instantly becomes a model 1903A1. Now let's look at some of the specific characteristics of my new rifle. To begin with, I'd like you to notice the metal finish. This rifle, based on its serial number and its barrel date, was manufactured during the 1930s. In fact, it has a barrel date of 1934. Even so, the finish is very, very good. It almost looks brand new when you look at the metal finish. Now, I suspect this probably is a result of an armory reconditioning at some point during this rifle's life. I doubt this is the original finish that it came from the Springfield Armory with. Even so, I'm extremely happy to have this. I wish you could see this in person to see how good this metal finish is. And the wood is not too far behind it. As I move the rifle around a little bit, take a look at this wood. It is in extremely good shape. And I'll see if I can show you that barrel date. It's actually 6 of 1934 with the Springfield Armory barrel. Again, take a look at the wood, look at the metal finish on the band, and back here on the receiver. This thing almost looks brand new. And the bore, by the way, I don't have a bore scope to be able to show you, but the bore is in extremely good condition as well. I'm expecting very good accuracy from this rifle when I get it out to the range. Something else I find extremely cool about this rifle personally is the front sight. If you look close at this front sight, and I compare it to the front sight on my standard model 1903 rifle, you'll notice the sight on this rifle is higher and contoured differently than my standard rifle. This sight, in fact, is a national match sight that was designed during the 1930s by the Marine Corps for use by Marine rifle teams. And from my research, it looks like there's no way to tell for certain if this rifle was indeed issued to members of the Marine Corps, but at the same time, there's no way to disprove that either. So, that being the case, I'm going to choose to believe that somewhere during this rifle's history, it was used by Marines during competition, and I'm going to be using it as a former Marine during competition. So again, I find that personally extremely cool. This rifle has the standard 1903 ladder sight, and if you're not familiar with these sights, they're very interesting. They offer a number of different ways to aim with this rifle. To begin with, there's an aperture right here. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but that allows for very fine aiming, and typically this is what's used during match competition. There is also a notch in the top of the slider here that can be used for longer range sighting. There's another notch, interestingly enough, all the way at the very top of the ladder here. The graduations go up in hundreds of yards, and based on this, that would be for about a 2,800 yard shot. Now, in wartime, that would be an area shot, and chances of placing a very accurate shot with this sight at that distance is not all that great. However, the Marines during World War I and the Battle of Belleau Wood did engage the enemy from distances out to 800 yards with rifles and sights just like this. There is also a battle sight, which is a notch here, that allows for very fast shooting. And if you saw the video that I made a couple of years ago where I used my standard 1903 rifle to shoot through a modern day carbine qualification course, this was the sight that I was using all the way through that course. An interesting characteristic of these rifles is the safety, and this just shows that these are from a bygone era. You'll notice the safety on this side says safe, and when I flip it the other way, rather than saying fire, it says ready. I just find that very interesting. And the safety can only be engaged if the rifle's action is cocked. If the action is uncocked or in the fired condition, then the safety cannot be applied. Like all 1903 rifles, this one is equipped with the magazine cutoff switch. You can see here it is in the off position, indicating the magazine is turned off. When the switch is in this location, cartridges will not feed out of the magazine even if it's fully loaded. In order to fire the rifle, each cartridge has to be single loaded into the chamber. If, however, the situation calls for more rapid fire, the switch can be moved to the on position. Now, as the bolt is cycled, cartridges will feed out of the magazine and into the chamber. The Model 1903 rifles have a 5-round magazine that can be filled with a stripper clip just like this one. This is dummy ammunition, by the way. And when the stripper clip is inserted into the groove in the rear of the receiver, the cartridges can be pushed down into the magazine just like that. And you don't have to pull the stripper clip out, because when the bolt is pushed forward, the stripper clip is automatically ejected when the first round is inserted into the chamber. Now, I'll demonstrate something else that I was talking about earlier. When I turn the magazine off and remove this cartridge from the chamber, no more cartridges will feed from the magazine as long as it's turned off. Cartridges have to be single loaded in order to be fired. Once the magazine is turned on, then the cartridges will cycle through the action with no problem whatsoever. Now here is why I don't believe this rifle started out as a Model 1903A1. The reason is because of the thickness of the pistol grip. The original 1903A1s had a smaller pistol grip. It was not nearly as fat as this one is. This appears to be probably World War II era production, although it could be a commercial stock because there are no markings of any kind on this stock. So that tells me it's not a Springfield Armory stock or a Rock Island Arsenal stock, but probably, as I said, either World War II era production or possibly a commercial stock. And of course, at the rear of the stock, this rifle does have the storage compartment for the oiler, which you can see right there. I've also heard from some members of the CMP who inspect these rifles when they come back from overseas that they have found some very interesting things in these storage compartments. Oddly enough, one of the more common ones is a toothbrush. Concurrent with the era that it was produced, this rifle has a machined trigger guard. It is not one of the stamped trigger guards that came along in later production rifles. And of course, this rifle has the standard 1903 Springfield bolt with the dual locking lugs at the front and a third locking lug at the rear of the bolt that engages the receiver, and also the Mauser style external claw type extractor. One of the things I've noticed about this rifle is it has a very good trigger. In fact, I'm going to break out my trigger pull gauge and see exactly where that's releasing, because again, it feels very good. Okay, I've got my Lyman trigger pull gauge assembled and ready to go, and the action is now cocked. So let's see where this trigger is breaking. This is always kind of tedious, by the way, to try to get a good pull and not over pull it. And that broke at 3 pounds, 8.4 ounces, so right at 3.5 pounds. Let's try one more pull. A little bit less, 3 pounds, 6.9 ounces. We'll try one more, just in the interest of being thorough. £3 pounds, 7.2 ounces. So it's breaking right at or just below 3.5 pounds. Again, very good trigger, and the let off is very smooth. There is no creep and very little over travel that I'm noticing with this trigger. And that's going to do it for the up close look at my new old Model 1903A1. The next time you see this rifle, I'll be out on the range with it, and we'll see how it shoots. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, as always, make sure you forward those to me. Remember, if you order anything from Optics Planet, be sure to use my discount code, which is... And if you use that discount code, it's good for 5% off anything you purchase from Optics Planet. See you next time, folks. And until then, good shooting. Bye-bye.